But the method that Imam Khomeini used was different. The method of Imam Khomeini was direct talk with the masses, with the people. He didn't talk to politicians. He didn't go to parliament to try to influence the views of the politicians in what laws are legislated there. He spoke directly to the masses. That's what he did. He didn't agree with a small number of people trying to change the system. He believed that you need to bring this awareness to the masses, to the people. The people create the change, not me as an individual. That's very important. Those who say that Imam Khomeini believes in this, no, that's not what Imam Khomeini believes in. There were people that even had more radical views than Imam Khomeini. There's one of the shuhada, he was a scholar, a student of the school of Najaf, Shahid Nawwab Safavi, which is a very important figure. However, he believed in taking more serious and radical action. They used to assassinate politicians in Iran. They took to the guns, they took weapons, and they started fighting. Imam Khomeini disagreed with that. All the way to the end, people wanted to take arms against, I think it was the first lecturer, Ayatollah Mu'izzi, who mentioned this as well. People, certain groups that had arms and were willing to, and they had taken arms against the government, wanted Imam Khomeini's approval. Imam Khomeini did not agree. The people have got to come to that maturity and realization that they, by their presence on the streets, are going to cause change. That's the type of change we want. This is the first example. The second example is where the time came to pick a name for the government that will be in place in Iran. There were different groups trying to fight with one another. Some that considered themselves a little more religiously inclined, and they were emphasizing on the Islamic part, and they didn't want that republic part in the title. And there were others that insisted on this being a republic. There's no need to mention, and there's no point in saying this is an Islamic republic. Imam Khomeini said, none of that, it's neither this nor the other. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran. Not one word less or any words added, period. The more religious people had an issue with this, well, those who thought of themselves to be a little more religious, had a problem with this republic part. I have heard that directly from people who disagreed with that, and even today there are some. Imam Khomeini insisted it is an Islamic republic. The successor to Imam Khomeini insists on this, especially recently over the course of the last couple of years. He's given some magnificent lectures on this, which I would advise if you can find translations or if you can refer to the actual text itself. I think it was in the visit in the province of Kermanshah. He gives some very, very insightful talks on the Islamic political system and the role of the leadership. That's the second example. Third example, very briefly, as I already mentioned briefly before, is the referendum. Imam Khomeini insisted on the referendum. Some thought that this was only to show the Western powers, hey, we're a democracy too, or based on, according to them, this is jadal, they say, based on your standards as well, our government is legitimate. I firmly believe that they have not understood the view of Imam Khomeini. Imam Khomeini believed it is Islamic to have this referendum. He insisted upon it not because he was worried about the West. Imam Khomeini, who said America cannot do a damn thing, is going to be worried about what the West is going to say? Imam Khomeini believed this is part of Islam. That's why it's necessary. Another example, which is the last example, is the way Imam Khomeini dealt with the issue of Bani Sadr. If not the first, he's one of the first, I forget exactly. One of the first presidents of the Islamic Republic of Iran. There's a certain body, according to the system that has been set up, that approves of those who want to participate in the election and run as presidents. They approved of this individual by the name of Bani Sadr. Imam Khomeini knew that this man has got deviant views. He does not really believe in Islam, which later on he contested to that. He expressed that very clearly. He lives in France right now. Imam Khomeini knew that. In their campaign, they had very, very critical points, and the way they handled it, it was very disrespectful of Shahid Behishti, which was one of the other candidates running for presidency. They did all of that. He was elected. The people voted him in. Imam Khomeini didn't say, no, this is my country. I have power here. This guy's not going to run. He didn't do that. The body who's in charge of this has approved of this individual. People have elected him. Okay, I disagree with that, but they've elected this individual. They want him, that's fine. Let it be. The war began. He started helping the enemies of the Islamic Republic, and before the war even, there was plenty of instances. He did a lot of wrong, and he hurt a lot of people. He had a lot of people killed. People who knew him came to Imam Khomeini and they spoke to him about, what's going on here? Why don't you just remove him? Imam Khomeini said, look, this is a government. The people have elected him. When things became clear and more clear and more clear, through the parliament, which was the legal path for this, he got impeached and put aside and he ran away. This is how Imam Khomeini dealt with it. Imam Khomeini did not say, hey, I consider this man to be evil, I'm going to put him aside single-handedly. He didn't do that. Recite the salawat. Imam Khomeini learned this from the Ahlul Bayt. This is the view of Islam. Very briefly, again, this is something I'm just trying to provoke your thoughts, to try to follow this thought later on, read up on it, think about it. And what I'm about to explain is not limited to the relationship of Waliyul Faqih, the jurist, and the people. This is the Islamic system. It's the Prophet and the people. It's Amirul Mu'mineen and the people. It's Imam al-Mujtaba and the people. It's the rest of the Imams, and understanding that whole political thought. Islam believes the person that is supposed to lead a government is someone that has to have these qualities of access to divine knowledge, either directly like the Ahlul Bayt or indirectly like the scholars. They need to implement it in practice for themselves, in their personal relationships, in dealing with others. They need to implement that. At the most supreme level, which is Ismah in the Ahlul Bayt, or at one level below that for those who are not ma'soom, and that is justice and idalah. A jurist that is just, or an imam that is ma'soom. That is the leader of the government. However, The responsibility and the control isn't single-handedly in the hands of the one who leads. The people are the ones that play the most important role. The people are. Again, this is very brief. It requires hours. But I'll give you a couple of Quranic concepts to think about and a couple of historic examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being with free will. إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. The human being is going to be provided with guidance. He chooses or she chooses to accept or to reject. The same way that this concept holds true in regards to individuals in their individual lives, it applies to people when they come together and form societies. The masses also have the freedom to choose. This is a very important concept. The people are going to be provided with guidance, and they have the choice to accept or to reject according to that verse. And although the instructions of the Ahlul Bayt, the instructions of a faqih are the truth, are something that needs to be followed by the people, but the choice of following it or not following it is going to be with the people. They can make the wrong choice and not follow it, or make the right choice and follow it. Islam is not going to force people to accept. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this very clear in the Holy Quran. People are responsible for their choices. Moving on to the examples, Amir al-Mu'mineen could have taken out his Dhul Fiqar after the Holy Prophet and said, you guys don't want to accept my wilayah. No one was a match for Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullah alayh. Amir al-Mu'mineen didn't do that. You don't want me? That's fine. It's your choice. You're making a wrong choice and you'll feel it later. But in the end, it's your choice. I'm not going to force you, although it's good for me to rule and not others. When they came to him, when the masses came, he said, لَوْلَا حُضُورُ الْحَاضِرِ. If the people weren't here, I would have left it. It's because the support is there from the people. Because the people have chosen to do what is right, now I am responsible to take on this role. And again, during the time of Imam al-Mujtaba, when the people rejected that, they didn't follow the instructions of Imam al-Mujtaba. Imam al-Mujtaba said, okay, you don't want it? Your problem, not mine. He could have fought too. This is the teaching of Islam. The leader has the role of leadership. He's not going to force his people. The people are the ones that are going to follow. They have to choose to follow. And this is very important. Taking something a little more practical for us, this crowd. And that is emphasizing the responsibility of the people. The leadership has always been there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've never left the earth without a hujjah. We have the hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in occultation. I've never left you without that guide. The people have not fulfilled their share and their responsibility. That's why we are where we are. In the Islamic political thought, the leader has a responsibility, the people have a responsibility. The leader is not going to force the people to do what is right. He's going to tell them, this is right. They get a choice. They don't want it. This is the Islamic system. I wanted to make and draw a comparison. The time has run out. I've received the note. But let me just, a couple of examples. if you want, of course, and if you feel like it, I want to draw a comparison between the Islamic system and the phony Western democracies that exist today that consider themselves the rule of the people, the democracies in the West. If you want me to explain that in a few minutes, recite a salawat. Otherwise, I will sit down. The Islamic concept is people have the choice, whether they like it or not. All people are making choices. People in this country are making choices. People in the US are making choices. People throughout the globe are making choices. But they're either right or wrong choices. All people are part of government. Every government in the globe, from the beginning of history all the way until today, has had to engage the people one way or the other. Fir'aun had to engage the people. How did he rule over the people? يستضعف طائفة جعل أهلها شيعا. He made them into different groups. He divided them, gave privileges to some, oppressed others. This is how he ruled over everybody. You have to engage the people. Amir al-Mu'mineen engaged the people. Every battle he wanted to go, allegiance, pledge allegiance. This is what we want to do, pledge allegiance. If there were enough people, he would go for war. There weren't, he would continue campaigning to convince the people that this is something necessary to do. Amir al-Mu'mineen. On the other side, Muawiyah also engaged the people. You know how he brought more people to the battle of Siffin than Amir al-Mu'mineen brought to that battle? By lying to the people. By lying to the people, paying money to influential figures to come and lie, to make them feel that it's their religious responsibility to come and stand against Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi. This is what they came for. That's why some people in the battle of Siffin, they spoke to Amir al-Mu'mineen, they received the guidance, they turned and they changed path, they came and joined Amir al-Mu'mineen, fought against Muawiyah. In the modern days, people are engaged, but they are fooled with the media that is controlled by these governments, by the people with power, by the mala', as Shaykh Bahmanpour mentioned, the mala' of today. They use the media to form public opinion in order to gain that support and do what they want. They can't go without that. The difference between an Islamic leader, a Muslim leader, a divine leader, and a non-Muslim, non-divine, even if they call themselves Muslim, is that the leader that is divine never lies to the people. He tells them what's actually good for them. They may see the truth in that, they may not, but he is never going to lie to the people. He's never going to say it's your national interest where it's my national interest. But the American government is going to say, due to national interest, which there's loads of homeless people on the streets, and for their national interest, we're taking them to die in Iraq and Afghanistan to get the oil and other things that are there. This is how people are governed. A Muslim leader doesn't manipulate thought, doesn't fabricate the truth, but tells them what the truth is and guides them in the right direction. People follow, we're going to be successful. People don't, and they listen to the lies of the media, then that's when the others are going to be successful. It's been like that throughout history. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the right of the Ahlul Bayt, by the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah alayhi, which we are approaching the anniversary of his birth, by the right of the Imam of our time, that he hastens the return of our Imam. We ask him to enable us to all become the true companions and followers of our beloved Imam. We ask him to prolong the life of and give good health to all of our maraja, especially the leader of the Islamic Republic of the Muslims, Ayatollah Khamenei. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us all of our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to relieve all the people of the world of the oppressions that they are facing. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.